Athens, Melbourne, Berlin, Jewish families waking up to vandalize synagogues. Swastikas sprayed on glass, windows smashed, fear in the air. But this time, it wasn't just hate. It was orders coming directly from Tehran, directly from inside the IRGC's Quds Force. The same people who fund Hamas, Hezbollah, now sending operatives into Western cities. And on this episode, I'm going to be breaking down how the Mossad has gone public on this. And they've named the man behind the global network tasked with killing Jews and Israelis around the world. And his name is Sardar Amar. So this isn't a rumor. This came straight from the Mossad. This was just released through official channels. And they've identified Sardar Amar, a senior Iranian intelligence officer, as the head of what's called Unit 11,000 from inside the IRGC's Quds Force. This is an international terrorist apparatus designed to execute one mission. I want to make this very clear. Target Jews and Israelis wherever they exist. Not in the Middle East, in Western capitals, cities where Jewish life is supposed to be safe. According to Mossad, Amar's network spent months recruiting locals in Greece, Germany, and Australia. And their mission? Track Jewish community leaders, gather addresses, map travel routines, and wait for the green light. Build a terror intel dossier. But something went wrong and everything unraveled. So who is Sardar Amar? Inside the IRGC, he's known as the mechanic. He's not a general, he's not some politician, but the guy who makes things move. This is the ops guy. And he came up through Iran's Quds Force, Black Unit is what it's called. And this is the same branch that trained the militias in Iraq. They ran weapons in Syria, and they coordinated assassinations in Europe using criminals and criminal networks. He's fluent in Arabic, Turkish, and broken English, which tells you where he's operated. This isn't a battlefield guy. I'm talking about the gray zones, the airports, the embassies, the hotels. He's the guy building the fake fronts. He's the guy laundering the money. He's the guy moving the assets quietly across continents. And to the West, he doesn't exist. But to Mossad, he's been on their radar for years. And this week, nisrafoto. They burned him. I want to talk about some of the methodology. Amar's network operated with two parallel missions from what we're hearing. Track one is the psychological warfare, and they call it the soft deterrence. This is where they're spraying all this anti-Israel graffiti. They're shattering glass, torch a storefront here, torch a storefront there. And this is about fear, instilling fear in every Jewish parent who drives their kids past that wall and then feels it in their stomach. We've been seeing this for the last 2 years. And that's the goal of that first piece. Track two is the kinetic action. Find the names, find the routes, eliminate the target using networks of gangs, drug dealers. It's clean, it's quiet, and it's meant to send a message. That's not extremism. That is the policy of the IRGC. This is state-approved policy. This is state-funded by Iran and state-directed specifically from Tehran. Now, I want to talk about the scale of this network. People might not understand how vast this plan is. Unit 11,000 is not some one-off. It's part of a grid. And Iran's Quds Force runs dozens of specialized units just like this Unit 11,000. each with a regional brief. You've got Latin America, you've got Africa, you've got Asia, you've got the Gulf. They partner with criminal groups, literally deploying criminals, drug dealers, mafiosos across Europe and the Middle East and South America, and they push fake cargo through legitimate ports. And the cover is always the same from what I'm hearing. Cultural exchanges, trade offices, student delegations, anything that lets them move without personal flags. Iran calls this strategic depth. Mossad calls it global terrorism. And now one of their deepest assets has been exposed. I want to talk about what Mossad's doing to counterstrike this offensive. Now, I want to be clear. Mossad doesn't do press conferences outside of its recent former director, Yossi Cohen, who I'm a fan of, who's on his book tour right now, who may be making a run for the prime minister's office. They don't typically do press conferences, which is why this is really interesting. So when they do go public, it's for a specific reason. And naming Amar wasn't about revenge, in my opinion. I think this is part of a larger psychological disruption operation that the Mossad is currently deploying. Israel is very aware of how unprepared they were for the information part of the war here. They dominated on the battlefield in Iran. They dominated with Hassan Nasrallah by eliminating him. They dominated by eliminating all of the leaders of Hamas. They dominated with the pager operation. They dominated in Gaza by destroying 80-90% of Hamas up to this point. All of the hostages have been returned thanks to Israel's greatest ally, President Trump. Regardless of what you think about Trump, without him, those remaining hostages would not be home. And it wouldn't have happened without that partnership. And when you unmask a covert operative, you essentially destroy his ecosystem. So Israel, tells me that Israel is starting to think about the psychological warfare here, the larger play, the larger battlefield, how they have to start catching up with that piece and how to start carving out their unique signature in the misinformation and psyops world. And every cutout panics. Every safe house goes dark. And every phone starts ringing in Tehran asking, who else, are you ready for it, is burned? And that, to me, is the goal of leaking this operation and leaking this guy's name and Unit 11,000 for the first time in 2 years. And this is what fifth generation counterterrorism warfare looks like. You don't just neutralize the network, you collapse its trust chain. And Mossad didn't just out this guy. They rolled up his network, and a wave of arrests followed across Europe from what I'm hearing. Dozens of interrogations. And those confessions, these are going to lead to the next cell. And the next cell. And the next one after that. And that's how you fight a global war or counter a global misinformation war without firing a shot. Ki b'tachbulot, by way of deception. And that's what the motto of the Mossad is. So I want to talk about why this matters for the West. Hey, are you guys a fan of the Aaron Cohen Show? Do me a favor and help support the show and join my sponsorship team. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a mini sponsorship package. They start at $25. We're completely independently produced, and every package sold helps keep the lights on in the studio so I can continue to combat that garbage anti-Israel misinformation and propaganda that's out there, while bringing you guys no-nonsense, cutting-edge analysis of counterterrorism, the Mideast, and national security. And in just 90 days, the Aaron Cohen Show is now the fastest-growing counterterrorism and national security show online with over 100,000 subscribers in the first 90 days. And why? Because of you, the fans. Do me a favor, help support the show, and join my sponsorship team. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a mini sponsorship package and help me to continue to fight that fight. Appreciate you guys. These attacks weren't aimed at Israel. Let me be very clear about that. These attacks by Iran were not aimed at Israel. They were aimed at the idea of Israel. That's why this is important. That's why I'm doing an episode on this. Jewish identity itself is the target of Iran. And they happened inside democratic nations that thought they were safe from Iran's reach. And if you live in Los Angeles or Paris or London, the takeaway is very simple. If Tehran can reach a rabbi in Greece, they can reach a diplomat in D.C. And Iran doesn't need missiles. They have networks. Their entire operational structure and deployment is built on proxies and influence pipelines now, which is what we're seeing running through our open societies. And so what Mossad just did by exposing Amar was a warning to the rest of us. The war on terror never ended. It just moved online and into the shadows and onto your streets. And that has been part of the master battle plan by Iran. I want to talk about Gideon, my AI threat detection platform for law enforcement, why it matters here. Iran doesn't just draw lines between Israel and the United States. The same digital ecosystems that they use to recruit and coordinate Telegram, Discord, Snapchat, certain encrypted channels are already being used by extremists in the United States here. And that's why I built Gideon. That's why I built the first early warning AI-powered early warning system that detects that violent intent and escalation language before the violence happens. Left of boom, before the gun is loaded. Because whether it's a foreign cell in Athens or a lone actor in Austin, Texas, the behavioral signals are the same. And if we can detect them early, we can stop the next attack before it hits the news cycle. That's the connection. All of this is digital, and this is the 5th generation warfare that we're in right now. So, no tanks, no uniforms, blurred lines, there's no clear lines here, just ideology, America's enemies, moving through data, money, and pushing fear. And Mossad just lit up one of Iran's darkest networks, but the message is bigger than one guy here. Again, if they're plotting Greece, somebody will be posting in Texas who's getting radicalized. And that's how this works. So stay alert. Have a look at what your kids are looking at. Do you know what your kids are sifting through online? Because you can silence a gun, but you can't silence an idea. And that's where I'm at with this. I'm going to come back to this. There's going to be more of this 5th gen stuff. Whenever the Mossad puts out a release or quietly leaks something to its media contacts in Israel to go international, I'm going to hit it here because it relates and connects to everything that we see online here and what America's enemies are pushing into this algorithm by creating that content rage, by spiking those comments section, the thousands of bot farms out there pushing out anti-Western messaging to tear this country apart. And Israel's Mossad just exposed a piece of that network. I want to thank you guys for watching this one. I'm going to come back to these. I want to thank you guys for tracking. I'm Aaron Cohen. You're watching the Aaron Cohen Show. And this is what modern warfare looks like today.